Rob G, interesting stuff going on. Joe Burrow, Rob, hasn't yet signed his big contract. Jalen Hurts, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, well, not Burrow, Justin Herbert have all signed, and Burrow hasn't. Rob G, give us a little context.
Yeah, it was kind of out of sight, out of mind for a while there because he's been hurt with the calf injury. He just returned to practice today. But yesterday during the press conference, head coach Zach Taylor kind of raised some eyebrows when he said that Burrow's absence the last week or so from the practice was not contract related. And, you know, because people are like, well, why? It's kind of weird that he would volunteer that kind of information.
Yeah, it was unsolicited, Chris.
Right.
The reporters didn't ask him, so that's strange. Right.
And so it got people to, you know, bring up some old information, specifically that their owner, Mike Brown had said in a pregame interview, you guys remember talking about it on the show, before their wild card playoff game against the Ravens, they talked about Joe Burrow's contract. And he said, this is the second time on record at that point, you know, we'd like to see him take less money to keep everybody happy. And that's kind of been an undertone now ever since then. You had Jamar Chase saying, I wouldn't be surprised if he took less, keep everyone happy. Joe Burrow has said publicly, I'm keeping my other guys in mind as I'm getting this done.
Mixon took a pay cut to stick around. I mean, this is the Mike Brown and the Bengals.
So this has been a conversation point, and again, it became brought up again when Zach Taylor, for whatever reason, made a point to say that Burrow's absence from practice was not contract related.
Yeah, and wasn't there something interesting in The Athletic where they polled agents, and agents were saying that, kind of as I've been saying for years, it's too lopsided. As important as the quarterbacks are, it's lopsided. So weren't the agents saying something to the effect of almost like you have in the NBA a max cap? Not only a max salary, but like you can get 35% of the cap or something like that for one player. Weren't they proposing something like that?
Yeah,
for quarterbacks?
so it was a long form piece in The Athletic, and they were talking about a bunch of different topics as they do. One of them was actually about what you guys have just talked about with Seth Joyner last hour and tone of the show, is the suppressed running back market. And one of the agents said that the running back market is basically tied into the astronomical salaries for quarterbacks. He said the fix is tying quarterback salaries to a percentage of the cap, either for the individual player or the entire quarterback room. Otherwise, you have to steal money from somewhere else, in this case, the running backs.
Yeah, Rob, I think they just got to get to the point where you're paying the player and you're not paying the position. And that's not a revelation. We've been talking about that now for a couple of weeks, or we've said it. And Sean King, a former quarterback himself, was the first one to bring it up to us.
He's right.
But, for a Daniel Jones to get a $40 million a year contract and a Jonathan Taylor, who is better than Daniel Jones, just plays a different position. And I do agree quarterback is the most important position. But the quarterback can't do anything if the offensive line isn't decent. If you like a nice running game, you need receivers to catch the ball. Like, they're all dependent positions. And I just think, Rob, the gap between what the quarterbacks make and what everybody else makes is out of whack. And that is a big part of the problem. And look, a Patrick Mahomes, a Joe Burrow, a Lamar Jackson, guys like that, I'm not, I don't have an issue with their money, anything like that. But if Dak Prescott, and I'm not trying to pick on Dak, but just to pick out kind of a next tier, lower tier quarterback, Rob, if he has a decent year this season, not a great year, but a solid year, and they get to the second round of the playoffs, as they typically do or have recently, and lose, but Dak plays well, it's not his fault. Does he deserve to become the highest paid player in the league?
No,
which
he doesn't.
Which is probably what he would do, which is probably what would happen, or close to it. And then a great running back who's better than him, but just doesn't play that position, or another position, you can throw out any of them, is going to get half of what Dak Prescott gets.
No, that is the issue, and it just doesn't make sense. It really doesn't. The Daniel Jones is probably the biggest slap in the face. It really is, Chris. And you can talk about how important the quarterback position. But 15 touchdowns in 17 games is not that impressive. 2 300-yard games against the worst defense in the league. That's what he did. And you can argue, if you want to watch the game in a vacuum and act like Saquon Barkley and what he does running the football, Chris, doesn't open up what Daniel Jones does, then you're not watching the game. Like, you're not. Right. So it's not fair to just say, well, you got to pay your quarterback no matter. No, we saw it with Matthew Stafford, Chris, and I remember this when it happened, and it was just his time. But he had played 10 or 12 years in Detroit, no playoff wins. He was the highest paid player in the league. How?
Right.
Not that he shouldn't get paid. The highest paid player in the league based on what?
Yeah, it's a strange situation because, we can go back a generation, Rob, and the running backs were the highest paid players. And the running backs, I believe they were. They certainly, most of them that were great were the faces of the franchise. They were the guys that were drafted early. And a lot of them didn't have great success. Walter Payton, most of his career was on bad to mediocre teams. And then, of course, he won a Super Bowl at the end. And he played a big role, but they won a Super Bowl at the end. Barry Sanders, who's one of the best to ever tote the rock. What did he ever win a playoff game? I think he got to 3. I don't think he ever won one. But
Barry Sanders?
Yeah. So O.J. Simpson.
No,
played
Barry
one
Sanders in
game.
91, Chris. That 91.
They did win.
Yeah.
Okay, so that was probably their last.
That's when they beat the Cowboys and then lost
Right,
to the Skins in the NFC Championship game.
Right. So he won one. So I get, it's almost like it's always been out of whack. If you're looking at winning, who's making you win? It might be a quarterback that's not making you win. It used to be a running back that was great but not making you win. But the thing is, Rob, those guys help put people in the stands. That's the thing. Jonathan Taylor, if you want to say, the running back position is not as important as it used to be, we only won 4 games with him. Okay. But Jonathan Taylor, Rob, was helping put people in the seats. He is helping your bottom line. And that goes Saquon Barkley, Josh J. Like any of these top, a Derrick Henry, a Nick Chubb, they are putting people in the stands, which affects your bottom line, and that's some value right there too.
No doubt. It's more than just right. You just said it. He's a marquee guy. He's a guy that people know their names. There's a lot of nameless, faceless players, Chris, in the NFL. You know that.
Right. I mean, most of the offensive linemen, and I'm not begrudging offensive linemen. We know how important they are. But nobody's going to see Trent Williams, as great as he is.
Nobody.
Right?
Nobody. Other than his parents and his friends. Seriously.
Right. And that's where, and Rob, and again, Seth hit it on the head, and you and I have talked about this for years. I mean, the players' union has been horrible for the NFL, but that is something they should have baked in. They should bake in, you showing me all these analytics about how the running backs don't do this. They don't help this way. I can get a running back in the 7th round. I get it, and there's some truth to some of that stuff. But who are the fans coming to see? Are they coming to see your center? In many cases, are they coming to see your linebacker? Your cornerback? They're coming to see a running back, a receiver, a quarterback. I'm just saying that should be part of the equation, because when it comes to the money, it is not just about winning. Even if you feel like a running back's not helping you win, he is helping your bottom line.
100%, and that's the issue, and Seth talked about it. It's a bad deal, Chris. 10 years.
They're in trouble.
They're just and they have no solidarity. The owners have made the league to where most guys, Chris, have a cup of coffee in a sweet roll, play less than 3 or 4 years. So those guys aren't willing to.
They're gonna go
and
for
that's
their
the
money.
and that's the majority of the league. 60% of the league are players of that ilk who don't play that long. So they're not looking to fight along, even though they're not going to get health care, Chris, and they're going to have issues later on. Go look at the statistics. 50% of NFL players are broke 5 years after they leave the league, Chris. 5 years. Because they don't make money. They don't make enough money.
Well, no, that's the thing. You can look at a guy, and he's making, and these aren't lower end guys, but if they're making $1 million, if you only make that for 4 years, half of that you're not getting. So that's $2 million, and you're 28 years old.
Right.
And you're retiring. Like, you know what I mean? Like, think about it. That's not enough. I mean, that can help give you, and that's where guys, I don't want to get off the subject, but you just got to be smart. And look, guys are young, Rob. When I was 21 coming out of college, I came out of a good college. And if you had given me a few $1 million, I would have, I might have acted foolishly. And it's the guys are young, so sometimes that happens. But they just got to, when you're in that situation, Rob, you just got to be smarter with your money. Because it's not, that's not going to last you the rest of your life. And anything else you get is not going to be as high paying in most cases. So